Last week, we started a series that was all about love. Let's talk about love to stay in our relationships. And what does that mean? What does that mean? I absolutely believe that January and February are some really high pressure times for families as financial crunch hits after the new year, as the long-term winters head in, as we are simply into the routine of winter. So much pressure often builds inside of families. And so we talk about love to stay. What does it mean to enter into those deep times of commitment and passion with us? Now, of course, you're going to have to make this fit in your life. Who does this apply to in your life? Is it a parent and children relationship? Is it a best friend? Is it whoever your life partner is? What is it? You make it fit. So today, as last week, we talked about the 4 loves that originated in the Greek language. Today I'm going to take you into 3 different kinds of love that originated in the Hebrew language. So to remind you, last week we talked about storge love. It's that love that is the familiar love. Gosh, I love my favorite pair of socks and I love my beagle. Into phileo love. This is the love that I have for my brother, for my sister, for my best friend. The depth of the relationship that we share there. And eros, which is the basis of our erotic love, but it's so much more than a sexual connotation. It's the depth of passion that we hold for each other. And then finally, the agape love, that love of God that is more powerful, deeper, stronger, wider, better, bigger than any of our other loves combined. And how we see each other in our powerful, loving relationships through God's eyes. Well, today we talk about this word love, but through an Old Testament version. There are 3 words that were used in the Old Testament, and that is raya, achava, and dod. Let me begin with a story, because where we're going to head into some of this is into some of our most intimate relationships, even into that area of sex. Ooh, can we say that word here? I was a young preacher. I'd been in 3 or 4 years, something like that. And we started a disciple Bible study. It was really fun. There were 14 of us as we met for 2 hours every week for an entire school year. And the place that we met was always in the church office. And especially in the depth of winter, it was the only room in the entire church that was fully heated. And so we'd spread the table out, and then we would cram shoulder to shoulder around that table, and we would start talking. The youngest in that class was, if I remember right, late 20s, early 30s. The oldest in that class was Betsy, in her mid-70s. One night, we got to talking about the Old Testament story of King David, as he had been caught in this horrible sex and murder scandal with Bathsheba. He had committed adultery with Bathsheba, and then when she got pregnant, he had her husband killed, and then tried to cover up the whole thing, and it all blew up in his face. But as we talked into the depth of that story and how God worked through him anyway, we began to talk about the sex scandals that plagued our own governments. And then we began to talk about the sex scandals in our own families and in our own communities and even in our own church. And we talked about that night that the very room that we were sitting in had been the scenes of one of those sex scandals that had happened way back in 1934 and still to this day was remembered. And as we talked about it, all of these stories that we were telling revolved around, these darn young people and these sex scandals. And Betsy finally threw up her hands and said, why is it that younger generations seem to think that they're the ones who invented sex? And we launched into this conversation. It changed into the fact that our sexuality is at the depth of who we are, all the way from cradle to grave. And it doesn't matter how old you are, there is a power that is so deep that runs in us. So how do we then, in faith, talk about love? Even the depth of passionate love, even the depth of our most intimate relationships. How does that all fit together? Raya, Ahava, Dod. Now, in order to talk about this, I want to go back with you into the Old Testament, into the book that is called Song of Songs. Sometimes it's called Song of Solomon. This is a book that is just pure love poetry. It is amazing, it's extremely colorful, and sometimes even graphic. And it's just an amazing book. It's also amazing for the fact that it is the only book in the Bible in which the name of God is not mentioned once. It made it in here because although it is beautiful, beautiful love poetry, there is a metaphor that says it is also the story between God and people. And therefore, that depth of intimacy and the passion that goes into that. Let me share with you just a few verses out of this. Let my beloved kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. Pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes, and your name is like perfume poured out. No wonder the maidens love you. Take me away with you. Let us hurry. Let the king bring me into his chambers. Do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. My love spoke to me and said to me, arise, my darling, my beautiful one, and come with me. See, the winter is past and the rains are over and gone. Flowers appear on the earth. The season of singing has come, and the cooing of doves is heard in our land. The fig tree forms its early fruit. The blossoming vines spread their fragrance. Arise, my darling. Come, my beautiful one. Come with me. And I think maybe my favorite verses happened in the last chapter. Place me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm, for love is as strong as death. Its jealousy unyielding as the grave. It burns like blazing fire, like a mighty flame. Many waters cannot quench love, and rivers cannot wash it away. If one were to give all the wealth of his house for love, it would never be enough. Powerful, powerful words that speak powerfully of love. What about these Hebrew words of love? Let's talk about it in terms of flame. The first of these loves is a flame that is Raya. To translate Raya, Raya is a love that can be spoken of as friendship. It's a more informal kind of love. It's a companionship form of love. Think about it. How is it that you spend time with your friends? What are the conversations that you have? There is a love and a flame that is just a joy in terms of what those friendships look like. But now go deeper with me. From Raya, there is the flame Ahava. Ahava is the flame of commitment. Commitment. All right, to explain this one, let me take you into my marriage. There was a day when I met my wife, and very, very soon after that, I realized that I really, really liked her. Now this was Raya. This was the friendship that had no depth in it yet. It was simply asking the questions, who are we? And do I like you or do you not? I had never been in love before. And so I didn't know what it was supposed to be. And so eventually I was asking myself the question, do I marry this one? Do I not? Should I? How do I ask? How do I know? There was one night where it came down to two questions. And the first question is, could I spend the rest of my life with that person? And the answer was, I don't know. How do any of us know if we could actually do that? Living together in close proximity and intimacy with people, that's not easy no matter who you are. I don't know. So then I asked the second question. And the second question was, could I live without her? And the instant answer was no. Well, in that moment, at that very minute, I crossed over from a relationship that was raya into a relationship that was ahava, commitment. And from that minute, what I knew was that if I couldn't live without her, well, I guess I'm going to have to ask her to marry me. And so I began to plot and plan, and I saved up enough money to put the down payment on a ring. And then I had to have a couple months where I actually paid for the ring, and then they actually let me take it home, and there came the moment when I proposed to her. But the moment of commitment was not the moment of proposal. It was that moment of commitment long ago. Ahava. When we commit to each other. What about the third flame? The third flame that we would share is the flame of dod. Dod, when you go into the dictionary, it has words like carouse, caress, fondle, you get the idea. This is that passionate love that explodes into a sexual love. And what happens is that it is the depth of love. And make sure that you're seeing that this is a progressive form of love. We begin our relationships with Raya. And as we grow and learn and mature, they become ahava. And as we grow and learn and mature, we enter into the depth that is dod. What happens if we don't? All right. Annie's mailbox. This is from the paper this last week. All right. Dear Annie, I am a married mother with 2 children, both in high school, but I am in love with a man who is not my husband of 21 years. Harry is my first love, and he came back into my life unexpectedly. He's also married. Neither of us is passionate or loving toward our spouses anymore. We both feel that we are growing apart for them. I am waiting for my children to finish high school before I make my final move. My husband still seems to believe we can be a happy couple, but I don't agree. He is unaware of my affair, and I can tell that he feels that I'm growing more distant from him every day. An additional problem, however, is that Harry seems to go through fits and starts about leaving his large family for me. But his marriage is based on a lie. Do you have any suggestions that we should do? Signed, Massachusetts. Dear Massachusetts, yes, you should stop lying and cheating and being disrespectful to each other and to your marriages. If you're unhappy with your husband, get counseling or get out, but do not rely on Harry to save you. We suspect he enjoys the affair more than he would a divorce, and that you enjoy the romance and the intrigue more than working on the day-to-day responsibility of a real marriage. You have invested 21 years and have 2 children. Please see whether there is something worth salvaging, and if so, take the energy you are giving to Harry and put it into your marriage. You'd be surprised what a little genuine effort can do. Here is my interpretation of that. What you have are 2 people who have jumped into the dod without the commitment and the friendship. They have jumped into the passion, excitement, romance, whatever you want to call it, of one kind of love when they have not been willing to invest their time and the effort into the other kinds of love. These loves must come together. All right, why would I teach you this? Because I want you to be teaching it. Dear parents, dear grandparents, dear friends, dear aunts, dear uncles, whoever you are, dear church members, are you taking the time and the effort to teach those who are in your circle about the power of these friendships? Are you teaching Raya? As parents, we start with our children when they are very, very small. As friends, we introduce our kids when they're 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 years old. Are we teaching them Raya, the power of and depth of friendship? As they grow and become more emotionally capable, are we teaching them the power of ahava, of committing into the depth of friendship, which does not necessarily have to be a romantic love at all? Are we teaching them how to be loyal? Are we teaching them how to be honest and open in the committed friendships that they have in elementary school, in junior high, and as they grow older, all the way through their lives? Are you holding your best friends accountable? Are you holding those who are within your larger circle of friends to be able to say, friends do not lie to friends. Friends do not betray friends. As we teach Raya, as we teach Ahava, are we teaching Dod? This is far, far more than saying, are we teaching sex? Oh, there's that word again. Can we say that word here? We better be. Are we willing to teach the power of Dod? The American culture and everything that we see outside the church is perfectly willing and perfectly frank about teaching us what sex is all about. But they fail when it comes to teaching us the foundation underneath the powerful and intimate relationships that we share, no matter what level and what direction those specific relationships are going. Are you teaching? Listen to this. Come back with me into the Song of Solomon again. Let my beloved kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. If we go back into Scripture, into the original, what you will see is this. Let me kiss my beloved with the kisses of his mouth, for your ahava is more delightful than wine. Your commitment is more delightful than wine. And then we turn the page and it says, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. Do not arouse or awaken Dod until it so desires. Are we teaching each other that there is a difference in these levels, and that these levels are crucial in how we talk to each other, in how we strengthen our relationships with friends, our relationships with children, with parents, with lovers? Are we strengthening and teaching to say there is a way that God intends us to walk and live? This is what we're about. It's to say that we need to talk about love to stay. And that love to stay is all about Raya and Ahava and Dod, all of them combined and building and strengthening each other. May it be this week that you look in the mirror, or maybe that you look across the kitchen table, or that you look across the aisle when you're in school and with the desks. Maybe that you're looking across the coffee shop and asking the question, am I strengthening, am I helping, or am I hindering these relationships? May it be that you strengthen these relationships in the power of true love. Amen.